All right, Washington trying to win the division. They're 6-8 in first place by one game. Any of the four teams can win it. They've got an issue now. They've got a good old distraction. Dwayne Haskins, after the 20-15 loss to the Seahawks on Sunday, apparently, allegedly, whatever, was, number one, at a strip club, which is no big deal. He's a grown man. He can do whatever he wants. Number two, violating the COVID protocols that the NFL put in place for going to a club. You have to have on PPE. The pictures of him, no PPE. And you can only go to a place where there's fewer than 10 people. Who knows how many people were at this club. But it's obvious that Haskins did something for which he's in trouble, because once the reports emerged that there was an incident and the Washington football team is aware and they're dealing with it, Haskins tweeted an apology. I think he's also since deleted his Twitter account, but that doesn't take away the apology. The apology happened, and basically he acknowledges that he did something he shouldn't have done. There it is. I want to publicly apologize for my actions this past Sunday. I spoke with Coach Rivera yesterday and took full accountability for putting the team at risk. It was irresponsible and immature of me, and I accept responsibility for my action. I also want to apologize for creating a distraction for my team during our playoff push. I will learn and grow from this and do what's best for the team moving forward. I mean, yeah, regardless of a pandemic, it's not a great look when you lose a football game to be going out and partying anywhere, but that's okay. Again, they're grown men. They can choose what they want to do. I don't care about that. The bigger issue is potentially getting himself infected and potentially bringing it back to the team. And somehow we've gotten 15 weeks of football in, Charean, even though plenty of guys have done plenty of dumb things that we know about and that we surely don't know about.
Well, thank goodness we've gotten in this many weeks, Mike. But yeah, Washington has a huge question at the quarterback position. And while they hope that Alex Smith can start, are they going to start Dwayne Haskins if Alex Smith can't start? And I do think that's a question at this point. And, you know, what is his future in Washington? What do they think of him? This is like the third dumb thing that he's done. He was already fined, I think, earlier this year for violating COVID protocols. And we remember the selfie last year when Colt McCoy had to go out and take the last snap because he's over there taking a selfie with the fan. I mean, just he continues to do dumb things, even after Ron Rivera questioned before the season his leadership, and then during the season questioned his preparedness, his work ethic, and encouraged him. And they thought drafting him with that 15th pick that they could get the most out of him by challenging him, and that obviously hasn't worked.
It looked like it was going to, and then it didn't, and he didn't react well to when he was benched. And he went from being starter to street clothes for the Washington football team. This was an opportunity for him to rebuild his career, for the Washington football team to potentially build some trade value going into the offseason. You know, there was talk they would maybe trade him before the deadline, the Tuesday after Week 8. You're not going to get anything different from him during the season than what you're going to get after the season. If anything, maybe you can get more after the season because more teams will put together a competitive package and try to get him, and they're going to analyze his film. It all kind of happens on the fly and maybe in a little bit of a rushed fashion during the season. So I still think they're going to try to trade him. This probably makes them more likely to try to trade him. The problem is this kind of behavior, Charean, makes his trade value less than it otherwise would have been. And I go back to the old Chris Carter, all he does is catch touchdowns, when Buddy Ryan finally had to cut the cord on the eventual Hall of Fame receiver to give him that wake-up call. Teams would much rather apply the wake-up call to the guy while he's on the team and hope that he finally gets it and figures it out than having him get that wake-up call somewhere else. With Haskins, I think Washington's just come to the conclusion there's no wake-up call to be had, and we'll see whether or not they can unload him onto a different team, and we'll see what kind of an issue it may be as they move forward this week. We're waiting to see the injury reports in advance of Sunday's game between Carolina and Washington. Will Alex Smith be good to go? He missed last week's game. They really need him to play, especially if there's any sort of discomfort and disappointment and just general disdain for Dwayne Haskins in the wake of what happened, Charean. So I still think Washington will win the division. And who knows, maybe this is a moment, the proverbial teachable moment for Dwayne Haskins that makes him more mature. I just think if Washington had seen anything positive this year, he wouldn't have been benched in the first place.
Well, that's exactly right, Mike. After week 4, he got benched, and then he violated the COVID protocols and was fined almost $5,000. You remember he made that reservation for a family friend at the team hotel. So it just seems like a pattern of things with Dwayne Haskins, and can't do the smart thing. And you always need that friend, that little angel sitting up on your shoulder who says, hey, this isn't a good look. We need to do the right things. But that little friend is supposed to be the quarterback. He's supposed to be the team leader. And even after Ron Rivera questioned his leadership, he doesn't seem to be leading for this team. And he hasn't learned, obviously, from Alex Smith, who is a great leader of the Washington football team. So I don't know if there is going to be a wake-up call, but I don't know that it's going to be in Washington if there is one. There have just been too many of these incidents where you finally throw up your hands and say, go do it for somebody else if you can. We're done.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.